Hello and welcome to Politics Today. I'm Farrukh Pitafi. Once again, we are going to talk about the political situation in the country, particularly yesterday, Shehbaz Sharif actually met with PDM leaders, and then, of course, there's a lot of speculation on PMLN's game plan and attempts to actually bring People's Party back into the PDM fold. But it seems that PDM still is divided because on one side, while Shehbaz Sharif is trying to do this, his own party member Shahid Khaqan Abbasi actually said that in order to come back to the PDM fold, People's Party will have to prove its loyalty. And that is an amazing statement. Regarding the government-opposition relationship, we are seeing that her government has moved the plea, has gone to the court on Shehbaz Sharif's travel abroad. That is one aspect that is quite interesting, important as well, because the Honorable Court issued notice to Shehbaz Sharif. That said, there are other aspects as well. Remember, we were talking about Jahangir Tareen Group and PTI. It seems that somehow some magic wand yesterday, if you remember, an MNA of that party was talking about a simple magic wand. But somehow the magic wand seems to have worked, and now there is some kind of bridge between the two sides. We are going to actually ask about that as well because it is important. Then you talk about government statements. We saw many statements which are very important. The Prime Minister of Pakistan actually pointed out that NAB has actually recovered a humongous amount, somewhere to the tune of more than 400 billion, actually 480 billion. But that is not all. When you talk about GDP numbers, again, the government's outlook seems to be good, and State Bank has actually supported the 3.94% rate. Right now you can see Shahzad Akbar's statement in front of you, his tweet: accountability is only achievable through rule of law, where institutions are empowered to follow the law without any fear or favor. And that actually he points out that the government is committed to. The Prime Minister also has repeatedly said that he is not going to take any pressure, he is not going to compromise. And finally, one more thing, that is a sideshow that is going on in Punjab. Chaudhry Nisar, actually day before yesterday, went to Punjab Assembly, and there he wanted to actually take the oath of office after 2.5 years. I don't know whether after 3 months you are allowed to take oath, but somehow they are influentials, and the Prime Minister keeps on talking about one country, two systems, and how the party is committed to actually do away with that kind of duality. But he could not take oath. Now he is going to try tomorrow, because tomorrow Speaker and Deputy Speaker of Punjab Assembly will be in office. So there is a possibility. We are going to talk about all these matters and more in order to help us understand his party's point of view. We are joined first time by Ehsan Tibana Sahab, who is MNA of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. He is also the chairman of National Assembly of Standing Committee on Foreign Policy. But today we are not talking about foreign affairs. We are going to talk about domestic policy. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. Barrister Safiullah Ghori joins us. He is a young but very articulate lawyer, very energetic activist also, and a regular on this show. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. I'm not sure whether the third guest has joined us or not, but representing, the moment they join us, I'm going to introduce them as well. Ehsan Tibana sir, let me start with you. And let me ask you about this talk between Jahangir Tareen Group and your party. What exactly is going on? Because the main reason was that your party actually wanted to go for accountability, and there seemed to be something wrong with Jahangir Tareen's financial matters, and now it seems that they are actually warming up to you.
Pitafi Sahab, I'm first of all thankful for you to inviting me to the show.
Sure.
Imran Khan is committed, and Tehreek-e-Insaf is committed on accountability and not sparing anyone. When the delegation went to meet the Prime Minister on behalf of Mr. Jahangir Tareen,
Right.
the Prime Minister told them that you are no more closer to Jahangir Tareen as I has been. He has been a very close friend. I've lived with him. I have lived in farmhouse, and he has helped me. So all my sympathies are with him. All my respect is with him. But when it comes on the principle of accountability,
Right.
there shall be no compromise.
Okay.
And then a consensus was reached. Senator Ali Zafar was asked to look into the matter, and both parties agreed on it. Whatever Mr. Ali Zafar would say, they'll accept it. So I think that has been diffused. It was an inter-party. People felt for Jahangir Tareen. He has been asset to the party. But now I think even in Punjab, Jahangir Tareen stated that he would not oppose or not hurdle the party in the budget or not have his members, his sympathizer vote against it.
Right.
So I think that matter is closed. Now the opinion of Senator Ali Zafar would prevail.
Okay.
And sooner that comes, sooner I think that...
And do we have any timeline about that?
I don't think so, but I think it will be shortly. We are getting next month, June, in the budget session, and all those matters. So there's no time limitation on it.
Right. Barrister Safiullah Hori, regarding sugar report, the fact is that Jahangir Tareen and his company actually controls 20% of sugar market in the country. In that situation, a report is going after him, or there was a report that actually incriminated him. Now, what exactly is going to happen? At this moment, it seems that he's going to get some kind of concession.
Absolutely. So this is what I'm beginning to feel is in fact happening, because in this case, this is very different. This is a case that is being run by the FIA, not by NAB, which is hunting down the opposition parties. So because the FIA is controlled by the government itself, they can influence the investigation, they can influence the eventual charge that is framed against Jahangir Tareen, and they can in fact even withdraw any of this investigation. This is the primary problem Jahangir Tareen had with the PTI to begin with. I'm not going to say that this is something, what I'm going to say next is not something that I say is necessarily correct, because this is a grapevine rumor that is going about. But they say that one of the reasons this thaw has taken place is because the DPO Lodhra was changed the day before yesterday. And this new gentleman has started several, let's say, investigations against important members of Lodhra, which include various members of Jahangir Tareen's family, for various other cases. And so this might be one of the reasons why suddenly there is a lightness to Jahangir Tareen's tone. Might be a reason, but not necessarily. One thing, however, that we need to acknowledge from all of this is because there are various members of this Jahangir Tareen group that we speak of, various members of this Jahangir Tareen group that came out on the media and spoke very openly about what their demands were, what they wanted, what they thought of this entire accountability process. And so this reflects on the fractures within PTI, because had these members been taken care of, all of these members complain about how they too have been betrayed in various forms and matters, how they have not received their funds, how they have not received the treatment, or how their constituents have not received the treatments that were promised in various jalsas that they have conducted. And so, and I feel for it. One of the reasons why I feel for it myself.
Hang on. Earlier you said that one of the reasons why they're politer now is DPO's posting.
Possibly.
You know, DPO's postings are actually within the purview of Chief Minister of a province. So what is the big deal? It has nothing to do with sugar mafia. It has nothing to do with...
Like I said, because the DPO is now looking into various other cases that are not related to the FIA case of the sugar mafia, but various other cases against Jahangir Tareen's
no concession in sugar mafia case?
I don't know yet. I think it's too early to speculate as to what's happening, but I feel like maybe the government is trying to play a little bit of carrot and stick. But also at the same time, I feel that Jahangir Tareen is buying himself time. And it is... How? Because right now what has happened is that there is a clear fracture within PTI that has emerged. And because of this fracture, as we have seen, for instance, recently in the case of Javed Hashmi. Javed Hashmi recently spoke out against the government on various issues, and Javed Hashmi's house was demolished. And Javed Hashmi is now out on the streets. He has taken to the courts. He is now blaming the government for being malicious and malafide. And so in the same manner, because Jahangir Tareen is now speaking out, he might resort to perhaps one can say more punitive actions against the government.
Right, and we are going to actually talk about that as well. Dana Ehsan Afzal joins us on Skype, representing Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz's point of view. Thank you very much, Rana Saab, for joining us. But let me first come back to Ehsan Tabana Saab. Sir, you want to clarify that issue of DPO?
I said this is that's too small a posting for Metro and leadership of this scale. That these are. He's not a cattle thief, or he's not a, the issue of the sugar is not taken by the FIA. It's a money laundering issue which is taken up by FIA. And all Jahangir Khan is asking for a fair trial. He has pointed to some Prime Minister's team members who have been negative towards him. All these members, they're on a one-point agenda. They said we support accountability. All we want is a fair trial. And the Prime Minister has committed to that fair trial. And then Senator Zafar is the one to make the opinion, not the FIA so far, not the DPO, not anybody else. And I think that's just a coincidence of DPO change or that.
And the two people that he's complaining about, is it true that it is Shahzad Akbar and Secretary of the Prime Minister?
This is what we heard.
Let me go to Rana Ehsan Afzal Saab. Rana Saab, you can talk about what is being said right now, but my question is about your own party. It seems that your party's leadership either doesn't agree on everything, or they are not shooting straight. Shehbaz Sharif Saab is trying to woo People's Party, and Shahid Khaqan Abbasi Saab keeps on putting more conditions. Why is it happening, sir?
There's a simple reason for that. Shehbaz Sharif is the leader of opposition, and as the leader of opposition, he has invited all the opposition parties to come and discuss matters for prepare the opposition for the upcoming budget. So I think it's more towards that rather than any change in policy. It was just, he was playing.
There is no disagreement on PDM?
No, the PDM still exists as it did before, and it will move forward. So I think Shehbaz Sharif is playing a very positive role in bringing all the opposition together, be it Jamaat-e-Islami or all the opposition parties. So basically, it would when all the opposition parties participate together as one front during the budget session, they will be more effective, and that is, I think, what he is doing. Shehbaz Sharif is doing right now.
And regarding Shehbaz Sharif's leaving the country and trying to go abroad, do you think that demand is still there?
Of course, he still has to get himself checked up from the doctor over there. So, I think but he will follow the due legal process, and whatever hurdles the government has created, he will cover them.
Rana Sahab, can you enlighten us on the nature of his ailment and the nature of checkup he has to go for?
Of course, he has been he's a cancer survivor. He has severe backache issues, and he has been going for his checkups regularly since the past many years. So,
and this cannot happen in the country.
I believe that it is the right of any citizen of Pakistan to travel at his will abroad whenever they want to. When there is no conviction, they are not convicted, then they are free citizens.
No, I'm not asking you to qualify that. I just wanted to understand what is the nature of disease and whether it can be taken care of in the country. He's a cancer survivor,
and there is always a chance for
cancer survivor is
cancer comes back.
Okay, so the treatment has to be abroad.
No, this is just a choice. Like, you can choose a healer or a pir of your choice who you want to go to. So similarly, if you have a choice of a specific doctor that you feel comfortable with, he could be in Lahore, Karachi or London. It's a personal choice for anyone.
He's a rich man, he could have flown in the doctor, right?
It's a personal choice. But I think rather than pinpointing on this specific issue, it is, he can go to England if he wants to, and he will come back because his history proves that he has been, cooperating with the investigation agencies properly, and he has.
Right, sir. Because you keep on qualifying that he has the right to go abroad, let me ask you: is he not a guarantor in the case of Mian Nawaz Sharif?
Of course he is, and in that guarantee, it does not say anywhere that he is restricted to travel.
Right, but Mian Nawaz Sharif hasn't come back to the country, has he?
He has not. But in that guarantee, again, I will repeat that
so
there is no such restriction.
So there are caveats, and we have to actually talk about these matters as well. Atibana Sahab, one question that keeps on coming, especially, and I'm going to come to you, Safi, as well, repeatedly in this program, that Shehbaz Sharif is not being allowed to go abroad because he's a guarantor, right? And who sent Nawaz Sharif abroad? Your government did. And what did it send him for? Basically health reasons, and there were reports. And we haven't seen any accountability of people who actually gave you the wrong reports.
It's an embarrassment. I think the authenticity of the reports, and the cabinet decided finally, and then even the courts were sympathetic. And learning from that experience, that's why the governments feel apprehensive of allowing Shehbaz Sharif to go. Ex-finance minister is absconding, Senator Sakda, Mian Nawaz Sharif, he has been in London, he has not been in any hospital in the last year or so. We see him on streets. Then there are many of those, and that is the government's apprehension that Mr. Shehbaz Sharif might not return. And they should face charges. There are public money misuse charges pending against the court. But now the matter is in the Supreme Court. They have to decide on the issue if they feel comfortable sending him away.
And I'm not going to talk about that because the man we are talking about, the opposition leader, is not a convict, right?
But
correct me if I'm wrong. You allow a convict to go abroad, but you are holding someone who has not been convicted inside the country.
Once bitten, twice shy, so we are apprehending. We were sympathetic at that time. He has been ex-Prime Minister. We were worried about his health. Even Prime Minister consulted Mr. Faisal Sultan with the reports and all that. And these were on sympathy. Those grounds that was given.
And I'm not talking about Faisal Sultan, who must have seen the reports and concluded, but the people who prepared the reports, they come under the Punjab government?
They are.
And did you hold them accountable?
We assume them, it's a government's job, because the health minister, the provincial health minister, still owns those reports. She has not denied that those were wrong. She owns them.
She's a great, professional, great politician as well. But when you look at the reports and the way they were playing out on the screen, that Mian Nawaz Sharif had this many strokes and he cannot walk and he's just, facing death. And then we see him being allowed and actually walking over to the plane, climbing the ladders and comfortably traveling. So there is a disconnect.
I think it was more miraculous at that time. The kind of pressure the media had built in, the narrative team had built in, that we are losing a man. Recently he had lost his wife medically. So those were on human grounds and with a positive mindset. But that was exploited. So this time, I think government wants to be strict on the issue.
Right. Barrister Safiullah, you have the entire case and the set of arguments before you. How do you actually untangle them?
There are two aspects of the story. The first thing that I want to comment on is the the very witty aspect of what you have raised about why Mia Nawaz Sharif was allowed to go and why there was no further accountability. I don't believe that the answer that the health minister owns it is sufficient. I mean, if she has made an incorrect report and if she's owning it and if she's still owning it.
She hasn't made the incorrect report.
No, but
she was given a report.
Given those reports and then, owned them, and now she's the one who's stating that, yes, those reports were correct. So she needs to really look down into her staff and try and find out where...
No, but is it not the job of a leader to shield their own workers or employees?
Just a moment ago, I think we were discussing how there are problems within PTI and how there needs to be accountability within PTI.
Right.
And so if there is to be accountability within PTI, they need to at least start with people who are presenting them with incorrect reports, which is causing them to take embarrassing decisions, decisions that are impacting their entire political future and the political future of Pakistan. But leaving that aside, I think...
No, hang on. I asked another, leader from PTI, and they said that these reports were prepared by machines. And I asked them, have you replaced those machines? Because they were, flawed. And they said no.
Yes, and so there you go. I think that's your answer. Either Nawaz Sharif has the world's best hackers who are hacking into machines and fudging reports, or
sympathetic machines.
Yes, sympathetic machines, what have you. But regardless, I think coming to Shehbaz Sharif's matters on travel abroad, if you may be aware that the Supreme Court has already said that the government is in contempt. The Supreme Court is taking notice of the government's actions. The Lahore High Court had allowed him to travel one time. And today was an interesting day because this whole debate took place in the Supreme Court. The case is with Sajjad Ali Shah Sahab, and the Attorney General Khalid Javed, who is very competent, stepped forward, and he did not say that they don't want Shehbaz Sharif to go or that they have any apprehensions that as a guarantor he will not be able to go. They said that the reason why they don't want Shehbaz Sharif to go is because of the manner in which Lahore High Court gave him this relief. Because it took place on Jumatul Wida, the courts were closed, so there was a specific hearing that was done for him, emergency special hearing, and the government thinks that the court's behavior, the Lahore High Court's behavior is nullified. However, thus far, the Supreme Court is of the opinion that the government is in contempt, not Shehbaz Sharif. Now they have issued notices to Shehbaz Sharif to explain why he got any preferential treatment if he did, based on the insistence by Khalid Javed, who is the Attorney General, and also issued notices to the government asking them to explain why they should not be charged with contempt. Because when the Lahore High Court has clearly stated that the man can travel, who is the government to stop him?
That actually makes a lot of sense when you listen to various arguments. But here's the issue. While the gentleman is being allowed to go abroad, I mean, Nawaz Sharif's case should have been some kind of, teaching moment for the entire country, that Pakistan doesn't have any extradition treaty with the UK. And if we allow somebody to travel outside the country, there is a chance that they may not come back.
A huge difference between Nawaz Sharif and Shehbaz Sharif as far as the law is concerned, because Nawaz Sharif was a convict, like you have mentioned, and here is an innocent man who has a court order stating that he should travel, and he can travel if he so wishes to.
But I'm talking about the understanding of the judicial system, and I'm saying this because when Ishaq Dar left the country, he was not a convict at that time, but he was actually proclaimed an offender subsequently, and somebody who has actually run away from law.
But frankly,
so this can happen
in my opinion, it would be extremely beneficial to the government if Shehbaz Sharif was to run away and not come back, because then right now, as we have just been talking, the only opposition that they are experiencing at the moment is from Shehbaz Sharif. And so if their sole...
Hang on. You don't see Maryam Nawaz?
Well, we have clearly seen that in the past couple of days, Maryam Nawaz has not been as active in gathering up PDM as Shehbaz Sharif has. Today she said, I think she stated that...
She spoke today.
To my knowledge.
And she also said that Chaudhry Nisar is not part of the PMLN.
Yes.
And there seems to be many players in the party, many voices
fighting
which are actually
And I think this is something that you should ask Rana Ihsan Afzal. He's here. He can explain to us better about what the internal dynamics of PMLN are. But to my knowledge, Maryam Nawaz said that because Shehbaz Sharif is here, she does not need to, apparently because it's the same. After all, these are little fiefdoms that are controlled by families. And so, since he is family, they do have, at least as far as the public is concerned, they try and appear to be a united front.
Okay.
So I'm not going to comment further on what the internal dynamics of the family are and how the family
Let me
runs
ask
an
the
entire
first
party.
one man who can. Rana Ehsan Afzal Saab, what is going on within the leadership of the party? Why do your leaders seem to have different opinions and so contrasting ones? Rana Saab, can you hear me? Rana Ehsan Afzal Saab, can you hear me, sir? And you'll have to unmute your phone's mic to speak. Okay, there seems to be some technical issue. We are going to come back to the studio, and let me ask Tivana Saab, your party also has disagreements, sir?
As on
Within the
having
party?
different approaches, that's democracy.
Okay.
Having different opinion to approaches, and that is what the opposition is facing with all the parties, then within the party.
Okay.
PMLN, Shahbaz Sharif, when we interact with their colleagues from PMLN, there's a group who wants the system to run to complete its tenure.
Right, and that
is Shahbaz Sharif.
Okay.
Believes in that, and he wants the system to run.
Okay.
Then there is a mindset of Maryam Nawaz and Nawaz Sharif,
Okay.
which they want to throw out the government, and they're asking for fresh elections. People's Party wants the system to continue
Okay.
till next 2023.
Right.
And so they have to come on one point agenda.
Right.
Working against that is very democratic. That's what opposition needs to do to keep government on their toes.
Okay.
We have a very small margin. So with the coming budget, if they are gathering, and as long as that is within the system, that is fine with me. As long as the PTI government has the requisite numbers, it's absolutely fine.
And the reason I asked you about disagreements within your party, I have heard many people say that your party wants the system to work, and there is an opposition leader who keeps on telling us that he is ready for a charter of economy, he is ready to support the democratic government, but it seems that you didn't have problem with Nawaz Sharif. Maryam Nawaz is also free at this moment despite a suspended sentence. But Shahbaz Sharif and his son keep on going to the, behind the bars, and now you're not even letting him go abroad. You could have very easily connected with him, and because you don't, Maryam Nawaz and the people who want to derail the system, they get empowered.
Sir, as I said, the Prime Minister draws a very clear line, and he claims he's going to not compromise on an issue. Even if its government falls, he would not succumb to any assistance, not even just to the opposition.
Right.
He has shown it to his own ranks and friends. There were two most important people, Jahangir Khan Tareen and overseas advisor, Mr. Zulfi Bukhari.
Right.
You know, these were, we would consider the most favorite.
Yeah.
Okay, so if he has not compromised on that, so that is one. Second, all the positive input, those standing committees are the places where the opposition government, they work together, they make suggestions.
Right.
So those are working fine. There's not the best of harmony,
Right.
but the system is fine when it comes to Kashmir on the national issues, comes to Palestine.
Right.
Unanimous resolutions, the whole opposition and the government stand together.
Okay. So, but my point was that the system actually forces the PM and the opposition leader to work together. They are part of the same parliament. I don't recall any session where I have seen both of them together and speaking and giving turns to each other. I don't recall any time when they have met or contacted. Should the matter be this inflexible?
As per principle,
Sir.
As per principle, as long as even if he is alleged, he is still leader of the opposition, he is member of the National Assembly, and that respect to that office, irrespective of the individual, to respect the system, that mutual understanding and working relationship should be there.
Okay.
but unluckily we don't have that.
So is there disagreement within party that this attitude should change?
There are hawks. There are the people, especially Mr. Vice Chairman Shah Mahmood Qureshi or Honorable Speaker. Their voices they're very keen, but then there are certain the more aggressive team, and I think that team prevails over.
Okay. I actually wanted to know if the Speaker is for reconciliation, because he notified the Chairman. Leader opposition.
And he goes out of the way. He goes out of the way to facilitate, to give opposition a point. But even from the government benches, treasury benches, he has been accused many a times that you're accommodating the opposition more. But we need to listen. That's what democracy is. We choose to differ. That's fine.
But I'm told that Rana Ehsan Afzal has joined us again. Rana Saab, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm sorry I'm having a bad internet day today.
Yeah, that happens to the best of us. But regarding your party's leadership, today Mariam Nawaz also spoke, and she actually was very clear on one person, Chaudhry Nisar, that he is not part of the party and that he has nothing to do with the party's decisions. And it seems that there is this speculation that Shehbaz Sharif has asked Chaudhry Nisar to come back to the Punjab Assembly. Your take on the disagreements between your party leaders and what exactly is going on right now?
I think these are purely speculations. Shehbaz Sharif has not done any such thing. Chaudhry Nisar has only come to the assembly because of an ordinance the government is bringing, which makes no sense to bring in an ordinance. If you want to make an amendment, do it through the assembly. So it's that ordinance which time bars people from taking oath, and if they don't, their seats get vacant. So it's purely that. And about whether he's part of our party or not, I think Mariam Nawaz is the vice president of the party, and if she's stating that he's not part of the party, that is the official status of Chaudhry Nisar being there, not being part of the party.
Okay, and regarding Punjab, is it true that your party disagrees whether to try to bring down the Punjab government or not? Because the Mariam Nawaz faction thinks that if the Buzar government is brought down, Hamza might become chief minister.
Well, that decision has to be made through the PDM platform. And what our party thinks, there are three things which have to be considered. Number one, if we take over Punjab, will we be able to deliver in a 2-year term? Is that feasible? So that discussion has also its own merits and weights. And the other one is that the PDM and all the opposition parties in the PDM have to decide, have to be on one page for that decision to be made. It is doable, it can be done, and the pros and cons are there, and the decision has to be made from the PDM platform. This narrative.
Sahab, can you tell us which party is disagreeing in PDM?
As of yet, I don't think that there is any consensus on this issue. So, consensus has to come, but there is absolutely this narrative that Hamza might become the CM. But if such a decision is made, Hamza will be the CM, and he is the chief minister candidate from our party, as he is the opposition leader. So,
so there is no possibility that because there is opposition to Hamza, Chaudhry Nisar is being brought into the parliament, the provincial assembly, so that he can be the CM.
I believe that the story that Chaudhry Nisar is going to come and there are going to be some political changes coming up in the near future. I think that's just there's a story. It's only because of that ordinance and that seat becomes vacant, and I believe that if that happens, he does not want to go for by-elections again and let go of that seat. So beyond that, I think there's nothing more to it.
Right, Barrister Safiullah. The question is about 2 seats, Chaudhry Nisar 2.5 years, has not occupied and has not been reseated. Ishaq Dar, a proclaimed offender, right? And his seat is there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, what does the law say?
Absolutely. So this is one of the things, and I agree with Rana Ehsan Afzal that unfortunately the law does not provide for filling these seats in a proper manner, and therefore I do agree with such an ordinance or an act which replaces such people almost immediately. It's pointless to leave these things vacant. Lawmaking is a very important part of the entire system of the state, and just leaving it like that, the way Chaudhry Nisar has, or the way, for instance, Ishaq Dar has been exploiting his position and not showing up, it's affecting the parties individually, because they have one lesser member who can vote, and also it impacts the entire legislative process.
Right. And if there is such a lacuna in the system, can you recall any other case, similar case in Pakistan's history, your history, memory of Pakistani politics?
I'm sorry, my memory doesn't serve me, but I'm certain there must have been similar cases. This is something that we can expect our history to be.
One to my notice.
Not the first.
But I can't seem to recollect though.
Yeah, not that long a period.
Right. 2 decades, 3 decades.
No, unfortunately, I can't seem to recollect a similar problem.
Unfortunately, you cannot, or there hasn't been.
No, I
any,
cannot recollect. I don't know. Maybe there hasn't been any, and I don't know of. Perhaps. But I would presume, however, that something of the sort might have taken place, because
in the past, if you didn't actually take oath, you vacated the seat, and then oath was taken. A new person was.
And so this is why I feel that holding up a seat just because you might have personal problems or whatever your issue might be is downright irresponsible and reprehensible. It needs to be definitely taken care of. I would agree with any legislation that does so.
Right. Even if it is an ordinance.
Even if it is an ordinance.
It shouldn't be an ordinance.
Well, I agree in principle that there should be no ordinances. Yes, I agree that the idea of ordinances is a bad thing. But we're talking about an emergency.
Your party was in government with 2/3 majority. You could have changed this law about ordinances. You never did it. How can you complain about ordinances? You were also ruling by sir? What?
I agree with you.
Okay, right. Let me come back to the studio. Ehsan Tibana Saab, your take on this case. Have you thought of approaching the courts on this matter?
I think the ordinance is putting a limit to it. This is the best way to resolve it. And I think even when the bill is put in the assembly, even the opposition would support it. That's logical, that's practical. That area has been deprived. And just as he said, half of the term is passed. He could have taken oath and sat back, not been active in politics. He's a very veteran politician. And just waiting for the right moment to come in, that time has passed.
That is a hypothetical question. I don't know, you come from, a privileged family, mashallah. But have you ever worked in a public office or any job that you might have been employed in the past?
Yeah, I was employed in America, then I worked here in Pakistan also in a bank and a textile sector.
If you don't show up for your job for 3 months, what happens?
They double my salary.
So this matter, this lacuna has been there, and nobody actually took action for 74 years.
I think they should have been. We should not have waited this long. They should have been taken notice of. Even with the senator's absence, that law should have been there. You're responsible. You're representing, holding a public office, running away and not showing seriousness to it's not a luxury.
Right. And if, as a citizen of Pakistan, and these are the standards for me, an employee, if I don't show up, I'm axed or punished, right? And I see that my lawmakers, my public representatives are provided with this kind of opportunity that they can sit out of the system. And I know certain MNAs who spent 5 years in the parliament without making a single noise. That is the people who actually never spoke. And I can give you names after this program.
No, that's a second angle. But this one, you get elected to that office very keenly. You go, you converse, you win election, and nobody had thought not taking it or joining it. So that's why that gray area was there. Nobody assumed some things, it might happen such.
Is there a possibility that the two people we have talked about, and they used to hold critical portfolios, one was finance minister, the other one was interior minister, and interior minister of the sort who used to claim and disagree with his own prime minister.
He was de facto prime minister.
Yeah, a parallel prime minister, right? But in that situation, is there a possibility that there is more story to it? Not merely law, but influential circles. IMF could have actually, supported Ishaq Dar or somebody else.
No, sir, it's just absence. I think we're working on laws on extradition of, people, wanted people. That is one, these are individual cases.
Extradition will have to be an agreement between Pakistan and UK.
Of course.
And by the time you sign it, there is a possibility that he might go to America or Canada. Or
so that's true. I think the government thought that the shorter way is ordinance. You come, you take oath in 3 months or whatever. They give a time limit.
All right.
Then you cease to exist. That seat is considered vacant. That seems to be the practical way.
Right. And why did this government take 2.5 years to actually think about this?
Well, again, it's good because Judge Nisar just made up his mind to take oath. Now the issue has arisen, so we are reacting to it.
Okay, I'm told that we have to conclude the program. Ehsan Tibana sir, thank you very much for your precious time. Barrister Safiullah Khari, thank you very much for always taking out the time and enlightening us. Sudana Ehsan Afzal Saab, today your internet was betraying us, but thank you very much for your presence as well. Viewers, you have listened to the discussion, and this all comes back to one thing that the Prime Minister has been saying. One country, two systems. This cannot go on. This country cannot have two standards. And because they are, the government keeps on fighting them, and then you see so much noise in the media because everyone in the privileged circles is always going to complain about these things. Let us hope in coming days we see one code, one standard for all Pakistanis, and that be a democratic and inclusive one. This was today's program. Thank you very much for watching. Take care.